I'd like to kick it over to Kim Euchre, who's going to dig into our content for today. If at any time you have questions, you should see a questions pane. Feel free to put your questions there. We'll be happy to interrupt Kim. I'll interrupt her on your behalf as we're going along, and I'd be happy to answer those questions. We'll also have Q&A at the end, so if you think of questions at the end of the presentation, there'll be plenty of time to answer those questions at that time. If you don't see the questions panel, you should see an orange box with a white arrow. If you click on that, that should expand all your panels and you should see questions there. All right, Kim, it's all yours.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about IT, DevOps, and our new map called RED. RED stands for Requirements, Enhancements, and Defects. Those are the three pieces that make up the RED application. So what is RED? Again, as I said, RED is Requirements, Enhancements, and Defects. That's how we came up with the name. And it is a single application that allows you to track all of your system development activities before they become changes and when they're implemented into your environment. And that also will be a catcher for things that were maybe entered through the incident or service request system that really weren't either of those, and really were enhancements, or something was wrong with this a component. And so now we're going to go through and talk about RED as a use case for development operations. RED can help you capture all of your organization development efforts. RED can let end users suggest improvements and track them. And RED works with your existing tools and is a perfect fit to your Cherwell implementation. So what you can do when you're tracking development operations. End users don't have access to your backline development tools such as Jira, and RED also gives end users a place to submit changes for any application or system in your environment. RED supports any development effort, whether it is IT or something beyond IT. And that's really important to note, and we'll get into that a little bit later. RED can track Cherwell activities. It can track activities against your service categories and subcategories within that you're using within Cherwell, and it can also go way beyond that and track anything else. Continuing, developers can use RED to quickly and easily track completion of their system development, and RED supports approvals by, and I have team leads listed here, but it could be team leads, it could be a change advisory board in your system. It can be whoever is going to be approving and authorizing that work be done. And RED provides a testing checklist to support customer verification. It uses Cherwell dashboards to illustrate your workload and the completion of your workload. And also it offers managers instant access to view the development status. So here we see just a red screen. Oops, excuse me. Here we see a red screen that is a requirement. And as you can see here, it has a number of different things as far as recording the details, your classification system. When we go into the demo, you're going to see a little bit more of this. But I just wanted to show you how you track requirements. And of course, within here, you can track requirements, enhancements, or defects, and everything will change accordingly depending upon what you've selected. And so inputs for RED, you can have direct entry in the RED business object. So just like I showed you that screen just a moment ago, you can enter directly into that business object. You can enter as a downstream process of an incident or a service request. So I can have an incident or service request come into the system, and it's determined that that is really an enhancement to an existing system, so I can create my RED right from there. I can have an entry of a RED ticket directly from the Cherwell portal, and so we have our own thing that shows those as well. And
hey, Kim.
then, yes.
It looks like some people are not seeing your screen.
I am so sorry. I'm going to go back here and just go through the slides. I had it paused.
Sorry about that, everyone, and thank you for letting me know.
Thank you for identifying that, because I did not realize that we didn't unpause it.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate the feedback.
I'm very sorry about that. Here's the example of the red requirement screen. And so we have the direct entry inside the red application in the red business object. Again, you can create that as a downstream process of an incident or a service request. And you can create the red ticket directly from the Cherwell portal as well. So if I'm an end user and I know that I have an enhancement request, I can go out and create my red ticket right from there. And then also, if you have Jira or you have some other third-party tool, you can also, just like you can any other business object in Cherwell, you can create a web service communication to other third parties. So those are the inputs to Red. And by the way, this presentation will also be available after this call as well. So you'll all be able to get a copy of that. The Red use case for tracking agile sprints and backlogs. Why does Red help manage agile projects? Well, it allows the creation and assigning of the sprints and backlogs straight from the ticket. It's dynamic creation. It can track your due dates for all of your items that need to be done. And you can also assign tasks for sub-development items and track completion. So again, becoming agile. You can prioritize and rank those items to prevent lesser items from becoming completed first. You can dynamically create new backlogs and sprints from a ticket or use existing ones. You can subdivide up a Red item into many concurrent tasks and track the overall completion, and I'll show you that as we move a little bit further in. And you can track the estimated completion efforts versus your actual completion, tracking due dates, and also then you can measure the completion of your Red items to make sure that you're still on track. Here's an example of the backlog. You can see here we're in the backlog status, and here we have our assigned backlog and sprint. This little plus sign allows us to dynamically add a new sprint or backlog right there within the Red ticket. So if I find that my sprint or backlog is not there, I don't need to go and figure out what table that's in and go and add it. I can add it straight from my ticket. And that is a huge advantage. When we actually get into implementing requirements, you want to know where Red fits into the overall implementation and life cycle. Red can create or link to changes and releases. And my favorite thing of saying is that I think that Red is really the glue that binds all of your tools together. It really sits between incident and release and change and all of your other IT pieces, and it allows you to work well between each one of those and be a liaison between those other business objects. And Red tracks your overall completion by your needs with customizable dashboards. So the outputs of Red, as I mentioned, you can create Cherwell releases or use another release management process that you might have. Your Cherwell change or other change management process that may be enabled in your company. Dashboards allow you to present completion statistics to your user community and also to your managers. And web service communication can also be configured to other tools as well. So here's an example of one of the Red dashboards that comes with it. This is a continual service improvement operations dashboard. And so here you can see where we've placed Red kind of like in the overall workflow. You have incidents at the top of the chain. Red is sitting in the middle between incident, and then downstream would be your release and your change. And of course, changes restart the process over again. Here's another example of another one of our Red dashboards. This allows you to see, again, Red in the overall workflow. Tasks, in this particular case, are shared by everything, because incidents have tasks, changes have tasks, releases have tasks, and Red trackers also have tasks. So your tasks are going to show your tasks for every single one of your different objects. This is one of the dashboards that helps manage some of the completion. So here you can see your requirements. You can see requirements that have been completed by category, your percentage of requirements complete, so you can see various statistics about your red from here. And then you can also then click on some quick searches that will go ahead and bring up some things as well for you. So in summary, Red is a very flexible module that is capable of tracking your requirements, enhancements, and defects. It's an integral part of the continuing service improvement operation process, and I think that it glues all of your processes together. And my last question is, what will your Red story be? And if you need help creating your Red story, you can always contact us for more assistance. And so, Laura, for that, I will open it up and start with if anybody has any questions before we actually get into the demo.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions yet, but if you do have questions before we get into the demo, now is a great time to ask those. I'll give you just a few moments. So there's a question, is it a map? Yes, it's a map. It's called Red Essentials 2.0, and you can find it at the Map Exchange. If you have any trouble finding it, shoot me an email. Be happy to help you with that. Another question, is it good with version 9.1?
Yes, it does work with 9.1.
Okay. Can you talk about other versions it's compatible with?
The map was actually built on 9. The most recent version of the map was actually built on 9.1.
Okay, so which versions can you use Red 2.0 with? How far back will it go?
I believe we can, apply it to just about any older system. If you run into a problem where you have an older system that you can't apply it with, you could certainly let us know and we could work with you on that. The created culture was added, I think, in 8.2. I don't remember now, but I think it was added in, maybe it was added in 7. At this point, I don't remember what version. But before the created culture, you might have some, tweaking that you would have to do before you can actually get it into your system.
Okay. Can it integrate with the ITPT map?
Sure. I mean, we can integrate with anything. We did not include ITPT in this overall example. However, you can include that and you can work off of that as well.
Okay. Do you think that most people will need any help installing it into test environment?
Installing the Red map, you shouldn't need too much assistance. Normally, it should install pretty cleanly without any issues. Depending upon what your customizations are, you always need to, take care and, review those. The one bit of advice that I can give you, because it does link over a bunch of the different objects. One of the key objects is incidents, of course, and we view the incident, the reds on the incident. You would want to review if you've made changes to your form arrangement layout, you would want to remove that before you publish your map. And I can help you and I can walk through and show you how you would do that.
Great, thank you. So if anyone has any issues at all in the map, reach out to us. We're happy to help. Okay, I don't have any other questions, so let's dig into the demo.
Great. Well, here we are in that continual service operations dashboard. This dashboard is dynamic, so I can actually click, and by the way, this is not actually the view open incidents link. I think it's just incidents and releases, or I mean, just incidents and service requests. So, but here you can click on the view.
Hey, Kim,
and it will actually,
Kim, I don't think it's showing again.
It should be. Does everyone see my
your go-to?
Okay,
I see your go-to webinar screen.
Let me know if you see it. Oh, you see my other screen. I see. Hold on just a second.
Yeah, we can see your browser with a bunch of tabs open.
All right, I'm trying to, it's not letting me. All right, we'll just do it that way. Can you see it now?
Yes.
All right, let me just move the.
Thank you.
Oh, it's fine. So here you can see the continual service operations dashboard. And as I click to move between these, it will dynamically update down here in the bottom. So I can view my red trackers, I can view my changes. So here, this is also a great example of a dynamic dashboard. So as opposed to going to search results list and then having to keep navigating back to your dashboard, in this particular case, I can just manage everything right from here. So we're going to go ahead and create a new red tracker. And we're doing this through the client right now. So we're in a brand new red tracker, and here, as you can see, the title and the description, and also the record the details is all classified in red, meaning the red around the border for the record the details, that's what section that we're currently working through. So and as you can see, as I move past that, it clears that out. Once I specify whether it's a requirement, requirement will give me red. The enhancement will give me my green icon, and defect. So you can always kind of see what kind of thing that this happens to be. So once I have completed all of that, and then I can actually say that I've moved on and my red has been accepted. So when it's been accepted into the environment, it's not yet started. It may have been that somebody just saw it come in and they've read over it and then they've basically put it into the queue. So now the next thing that happens is maybe I'm going to have a classification session for all of those things that haven't been started. So now we're going to come in and we're going to click on the classify, and you'll notice that the classification section became highlighted here in red. We don't require any of these fields, so that way you can specify and you can create what is meaningful to you. So I can obviously use my service category and subcategory that's out of Cherwell, or I can use my own red category and red subcategory. So maybe this is a portal item, and this just happens to be a Cherwell categorization, something I'm doing for Cherwell. So there's a portal, and then underneath portal, I'm changing the service catalog because I want to track the hours against that, and I want to track what's being done. So that's why I wanted to add those. But maybe this is something that is totally outside of IT. So this is an facilities. And so as soon as I have added that, it becomes available in this list. And maybe that's not a good subcategory. So I want a new build out. So I just click the plus sign. I'm going to go and add that out there, and then it's available to me right away. Whoops. So I just wanted to show that you could have something in IT or you could have something completely outside of IT, and it works either way. And you'll notice how fast it was for me to just go and add those plus signs, and I can add anything that I want there. So now that I've classified my red, I'm going to go on and go to my backlog. So in terms of a backlog, it's what am I going to work on first and how am I going to manage that? So I have, in this example, I have a couple backlogs. I also have a sprint listed in here. So, you can have either. So maybe I'm going to put this on backlog A. And then I'm going to move forward to planning. You'll notice that we wanted you to have constant access to the backlog, or we wanted to highlight it so that once you've filled in the backlog, that becomes green. And so it's always available to you. In planning, I could be doing my specification, which is down on a tab. So I could put in some more specification here. I could be doing other things in the system, but I'm not yet ready to move on. When I move on to the estimate, then I can click the prioritization. And when I do prioritization, I have my impact, which is a request, or it's a development kind of impact. It's something you must have, you should have, you could have it. And when do you need it? Now, sooner, later. So you can pick those items. And then if I have a whole bunch of 4s or a whole bunch of 1s, how do I start ranking those against one another? Well, we allow you to rank from 1 to 10. You could always expand that. You could change that to be something completely different. But this allows you to go from 1 to 10. So I think that this is the most important number 4 that I have. I'm not going to go into the weighting right now, but the weighting allows you to make an item less important than like let's say this is adding a field to change, for example. It's not going to be classified and weighted in terms of like the entire change management system. So, you know, like if I complete a field, it's not going to be 50% done of my item. And then I have the ability to specify the time to fix or implement in the number of hours. So maybe I think this is going to take me 4 hours to do. When I come back and that later on, I can actually specify that it took me maybe less time to do than I thought it was going to do. The next thing as we move forward, you're going to go to assign. It'll ask you to select a team and a person from that team. Also here, I have the capability of we have a release object that's actually built into Red. So I have the ability to select a release there and or add a release, or you can hook this up to use your Cherwell releases. So when I do a drop down, I could actually be showing the releases from the Cherwell release management object. And then I would be able to specify whether it's a major or minor release. And then also, this is just we have a Red projects table. However, the question was asked whether or not I could hook this up to ITPT. Yes, and most certainly I could. And then this could actually, instead of showing this list, it could actually show your ITPT projects. And then over here, this allows you to determine whether it's delivery by somebody internal to your organization or whether it is something that may be a little bit out of your control. So it's something that is assigned to an external. Maybe this was a defect, a Cherwell defect. So I've escalated this to a Cherwell, and I have the ticket number or the enhancement number, as the case may be, because, you know, like I've submitted enhancements as well. So once I've done all of the assignment that I have to do, it moves forward and goes to the approval. So out of the box, we just have it going to the owned by for approval. So here we can see that Bruce is waiting to approve it. And so I can just go in and approve on his behalf. And I don't think I'm running, I'm going to have to go and advance this here. Okay. I don't think I'm running the automation process on this server, so I'm going to have to advance it. So then it goes to approved and comes back to your red ticket. From there, we're going to go to design a solution. And so this is really where your development team kind of takes over. And so there's develop, there's build, there's test. At any point along here, I can actually go and set up a user test. I'm sorry, I can go set up a test checklist setup. So here when this is a very simple thing. I give it a title, and then I can determine what I want them to do. Enter ticket, validate X, whatever those items happen to be. And then when
Hey,
I'm
Kim,
done, I can just, yes,
we got a question, so let me know when it's a good time to pause.
I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay, is there a possibility of adding additional owned by?
Sure. Just like, if you can do that in any of your other, like incident management and change, you can do that here as well. It is no different than any of your other business objects inside Cherwell.
And ability to do more than one owner?
Yes. Now, however, the only caveat that I will give you to that is that there are some things that are peculiar inside Cherwell as far as like looking at the owned by team, like looking to see if I'm a member of a team and such. It can get kind of sticky sometimes, like if you're doing second or third party assignments. To make sure that I am a member of one of those teams, I might have to do some other balancing to see if I can get, like to show on dashboards or to show in some of those other queues and such. I might have to do some special little things there.
Great, thank you. That's all I have right now.
Okay. So
looks like it does.
Once I've actually built that testing setup, and as I move forward here, by the way, when I'm in the build, this isn't, the development status is open, so I can, while I'm working on it, I can say in progress, and maybe I'm 25% complete at that point in time for that day, and then later on the next day I come back through and I can say that it's completed, and I can mark it as 100%. So now I've completed my development, and I'm going to move forward and go into the testing of the solution. So here is where I'm going to pass this off to some of the other people in my organization, maybe some of my peers, some of my other testers, some of my business analysts, and I can ask them to come in and test this. So they're going to come in and go into test, and it's going to say select the test that you want to use. I want to use that test A, and when it brings it up, it brought up, where did my test go? My tab disappeared. So here's the checklist that I built. And so now it's in the format for a user to select. They can, click here. Then they can actually click on not tested, passed, or failed. So if it passes, by the way, if you pass it, if you select that from the drop down, it automatically checks that particular box. If you fail it, it automatically checks that box as well, that you've done something. Once you submit it, it grades it. So here I'm going to go through. I have 2 passes and 1 fail, and I submit. And so my tests that I've completed thus far have equaled 66.67%. So I would probably want to make some changes and have a couple more people go in and test. And each test that I do, if I go in and test this again, not sure why my tab is disappearing. It's not supposed to there. So I can go back in and test, and then I can actually have pass on all of these. And you can see that that is cumulative. So it took that 66.67 and the 100%, and then now I'm at an average of 83.34. So you can really test and have metrics about all of your items as well. I move forward to implementing the solution. And at this point in time, that might be where I want to hook up with an incident or a change request or a release. And then once I have implemented it, I can send it off to customer acceptance. So that could even trigger another approval at that point in time for customer acceptance. And then I go to post-implementation review. And then I close my red ticket. And that is really red. That's all there is to it. We have a number of dashboards that go along with it. So this is one of those that I had shown you. This is requirements that are complete by category. So here we're showing items that maybe were incidents that were linked to a red ticket. Red tickets by incident subcategory, that those are things that are classified by Cherwell categorization. And then the green, the green is the incident categorization. The magenta is the things that are classified by the red categorization. So I can classify and track those requirements complete separately. I can determine my overall of all my requirements and such, how much is complete. I can track them by the type, whether it's a defect, an enhancement, a requirement. I can have a list of known defects. So there's lots of information here. And
Kim, we've got another question too.
Sure, go right ahead.
Once you click submit on the user test, can you retest on the same line, or do you have to create another line? And then follow-on questions would be, why wouldn't you want to use the same line? Are there any gotchas?
I think you can actually use the same line. I think that, and I'm have this one closed, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to update. It's not showing me the tests at the moment. I'll have, because it's closed. Huh. Oh, that's not the item that I was looking at. This does have something here, though. This has the tasks. So each time I open a task, I'm tracking my number of tasks. And then I'm also tracking the completion percentage of those tasks as well. So let me go back to my list. Huh, okay. Oh, that might be just showing my open ones. Okay, so here, if I go in and I have my user, let me set up a quick test here. Okay, so now I'm going to run a user test. So I failed it the first time. So the completion, and so I can come back in. Right now, I cannot. However, you certainly could open that up to be updatable after it's been submitted, and then allow that submit button. So currently, I do not allow that to be reused, but you certainly could.
Okay, we also have one more question. Are you ready for it?
I am.
Okay, oh, it looks like there was a follow-on from the same person just now. Would it track the percentages anywhere?
It tracks it in the actual record. I mean, like, so for example, in this user test record that gets created, it does track that percentage. There certainly would be a way, I mean, if you chose to, we could also have a ignore test, like once you've actually sent it back, maybe through build and another, set of development, you could have it invalidate all previous user tests so that your completion percentage is only looking at current tests. That is not currently in the red system, but it certainly could do that.
Okay. The other question that came in is, are dashboards available through the self-service portal?
They are, and that's actually where I was going to go next is, so we actually built out a site for this. So here you can see that, we just have a simple little like site, and I'm going to go ahead and so I'm signed in as John, and so here's the red tracker, set. So I can, create a requirement. I can create an enhancement. Currently, I don't have I have my red trackers, but I don't have any of those other management dashboards for red trackers available here, because typically those are being worked by your internal groups. So, but I can go and create a requirement, and it will actually come in and actually ask me to type in a little bit about my requirement, and just hit submit. And I've now submitted my requirement to my internal teams. And so the same is true of enhancement and defects. So it's just a one single click to get to a requirement, enhancement, or defect. But I don't have worker dashboards available, because typically your workers aren't your customers aren't working those tickets. Now, you might want to have a testing dashboard that you put out here that has items that maybe you want your customers to test, and you could certainly do that. Are there any other questions, Laura?
Nope, not at this time. You can go ahead.
Well, basically, I've actually, managed to get through all of the pieces of, red. So I'm basically open to any questions, or if anybody has any other comments or questions that they want to give.
Okay, if there's any other questions, now is the time before we drop the lines. We'll give everyone a few moments to put questions in. Okay, I do have one that has popped up. Can you show how you do flag incident as red item?
What you would do, and hang on a second, let me go to my when I'm in my incident here, and I believe I'm not showing that tab at the moment, but there would be a tab down here at the bottom that would say open red item. There would be red items, and then, just as similar as you have change request and you have your other things, you would just be able to go and create a new, like here with problem. You'd be able to go, I can't do that on either one of these. The out of the box keeps changing. So sometimes there's like a new here. So I can go and create a new red tracker and or attach to an existing red tracker ticket. I'm just not showing that tab down here at the bottom at the moment. Maybe that's because, let's go check an incident here. I'd have to go see why that red is not showing up there on that tab. That's typically one of those items that I said that when you're deploying the red map, that you want to be careful not to overwrite your incident management system or your form arrangement anyway. So after I've installed red, typically what I will do is I will go and add red as an item down here on the form arrangement. The relationship already exists. And so I would just go and then drag that relationship to a tab, and then it would instantly become available.
Okay, I have another question from the same person. Yep, I got a few in the queue here, so I'll ask the other question from that same person. What type of customization is needed to add requirement directly from dashboard to red?
Can I have some more to add the requirement? I'm sorry, I'm not getting that question. Can you repeat the question for me?
Okay. Yeah, what type of customization is needed to add requirement directly from dashboard to red? And if this person would like to go unmuted, I'm going to try to unmute you. If you'd like to talk directly with Kim, you're now unmuted, Aris.
Hey, Kim. My question is, if a user is submitting an enhancement request or submitting a requirement, we see that that's being submitted through our SharePoint portal. What do we need to do to bring directly into red from there after the approval is done?
Well, that's great. I mean, because I said that when I went through the presentation, you can use web services to communicate, or even better than that, in Cherwell, when you're there are links. Like I could put a link on straight on my SharePoint, and that SharePoint link, that I give it, can actually interact with Cherwell and actually create a ticket straight from SharePoint. I've actually done that before, and that's not hard. That's not, you just have to get the link right. And what I would do is I would go and build the link in the HTML editor, and then I could actually, copy and paste that onto my Cherwell, onto my SharePoint site.
Okay.
Did that answer the question?
Actually, I think maybe I said SharePoint. It's our enhancement request process flow is built into Cherwell.
Okay.
And what happens is when somebody submits a request, it goes to the approval process from the business approver, some sort of VP. They approve it, then we see a task created in our Cherwell dashboard for relevant department where they received that request. And then we take that and input in our demand management system, which is going to be read from now on.
Well, and it's totally
so
up to
is
you.
That instead of,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, it's totally up to you. So if you want to handle the first parts of it in incident management and then have red take over after it goes into that demand management system, you can certainly do that. You can hook up with the demand management and have it enter the red ticket, and not only have it enter the red ticket, but you could advance that red ticket to whatever status makes sense for your organization. So maybe that demand management system handles the approvals, and then you're using red for the back end, for the development part of the process. You can start that status right there at the design and build. So, you have already eliminated the first half of the red ticket.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
Yes.
And did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay, Laura, I'm ready for the next one.
All right, here we go. Can you talk briefly about the reason this was created? What about INC, SR, change was insufficient to address this? This person would like to understand the big picture use case for red over the other business objects.
This is created for a number of different reasons, because wherever we went, I mean, things were, requirements and such were being tracked, and personally too, so if I'm building out a system, I have a whole bunch of requirements. I have a statement of work that manages all of my different requirements and all of the different things that I'm doing. Those are never going to be tracked as an incident, and they're not going to be tracked as a change, because I'm not going to have a change that just says, maybe one little piece, one little requirement of something. My statement of work might be like implement incident management. And so that's my statement of work, and then all of my various pieces of that are going to be my individual requirements. But my change would probably be the downstream from there. Once I get done with everything, that's where my change comes in. And it could even be that I'm using this to track my building of my Cherwell implementation. And so I'm not going to have a change management system until I've actually completed this process. So it was really managed to get rid of all the extra paper, because most everywhere that we went before we started using this, we were tracking things by spreadsheets, either tracking them by spreadsheets or tracking them by sticky notes or tracking them by something else. And it never worked quite as well, because, multiple people cannot really get in and work a single spreadsheet very well, especially if you have multiple developers. And so this way, if you do have multiple developers, they can all go and see what is in progress, what somebody else has picked up. They can see things that were added new. And the other thing that they can do is, when I'm entering a new red ticket, I have the option of saying that it's a gap in requirements. So the statement of work was my list of requirements that I needed to complete my project and get it done. A gap indicates that there was something that somebody didn't think of. And so that indicates that there's something else I need to do there. It's really a way of me tracking my work. And so it really it's not change, because it lives before I even get close to my change management system. It's not incident, because incident is not something that my service is not down. My service is running just fine, but maybe I want something different from my service, or maybe I have something that is not working completely to my expectations, but it's, again, my service is not down. So that would be something that is an enhancement request. Well, and it sits between all of those. And it also lets me see why I approve certain changes and denied others. So I can see why I'm when I'm walking through this, some requirements are things that I want to, work on. Again, Red has helped us dramatically, because it has eliminated that need to manage with all of the spreadsheets. And that was a terrible way to try and track. And this Red enables us to see so much better about what is actually going on in the environment, what we're working on, what requirements we're doing. And then it allows us to filter. well. I can, filter those requirements, enhancements, and defects. I can report on those. And so managers don't do really well with spreadsheets either. I mean, because they don't want to see, they don't want to look through all the data. They want to see what's being done. So in this particular case, they can take a single glance at this and they can say, oh my gosh, look at all these requirements we have. And, maybe that gap in requirements is big and they should worry about that. So it allows them to look at each one of these criteria and get an answer in just a minute, rather than having to go through and the data and try and work through all of the answers themselves and come up with those. And Laura says that she's back. So I'm not sure if anyone else has any more questions. I'm happy to take any questions that we have.
I did have one more comment. I'm not sure if you addressed it while I was trying to get back onto audio, but the person who asked the previous question mentioned as a follow-up they might use this as a project management solution rather than using ITPT. The person mentions he creates an entry for the overall project and requirement for every facet of the project. Do you see that working well?
I do, and it would work just fine. We didn't intend it as a project management replacement because ITPT is a fully fledged solution. However, it would work just fine as a project management light solution. We really we built Red to really focus on the getting work done. Take like the Stephen Covey. I want to get in there. I want to get the work that I have, and I want to get it done as effectively and as efficiently as I can. And this allows us a way of doing that and tracking that, and like I said, getting that work done. But you could expand it to be a project management solution. You could expand it to be a release management solution. If you'll notice here, we do have light pieces of some of those things in here. We do have the a red release table. So in other words, I can go ahead and, by the way, it's not doing the pop-up here for this. New release. I forgot to change that. So I can come back here to my ticket. So I have the ability to, oh, it's not showing me where releases. Fantastic. So I have the ability to put in a release. I have the ability to specify whether it's a minor or a major release. And so I do have some light release management items here. I also have the ability to put in additional projects. New project. And again, that's available to me immediately. As soon as I put in that project affected, that becomes immediately available. So that allows you to do that light project management right from within the red ticket and not connect up with ITPT. So that's why I say it's kind of like the glue. It kind of sits between all of the different modules. It connects to all of the different modules. It has a little piece of everything in it, but it really sits kind of like in the gray areas between all of those other modules.
Okay, the last question that I had that came in was, can we see the puzzle piece dashboard?
Sure. It'll take just a second. And the puzzle piece dashboard is really kind of meant to, each one of these, kind of like is leading to the next piece. So again, incident kind of like leads into your red trackers. It's a, natural kind of leading. Then you move into release. And this is Cherwell's release management. And that's why it says business object. And I don't have the release management map installed here. But once you do, then you would actually be able to manage, with release. And of course, releases changes get created from the releases, so then release falls into change. And then as a result of changes, sometimes we have incidents. And like I said, tasks sits in the middle, and you can see I can get to my red tracker tasks, I can get to my incident tasks, change tasks, and or release tasks just from clicking.
Okay, great. There are 2 other questions that just popped up. One is this person's having issues downloading the map on the Stratacom site. So we'll take that one offline. Chris, I will reach out to you and we'll help you get that working. Next question I have is, what about future upgrades to Red? How do we know when to upgrade?
Laura, that's a question. I mean, we do track who downloads our map. We can send out a update on some kind of basis when the map gets updated. We haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't at this point in time, but we certainly could do that and send out some information when it gets updated.
I like that idea. We'll be sure to keep track of that and let you know when there are updates available. Thank you for the suggestion. At this time, I don't have any other questions in the queue, so if you do have any final questions, please enter those questions right now, and we'll address those before we hang up. We'll leave the lines open for about 20 more seconds here. We'll wait for anyone else to chime in with questions.
It doesn't have to be about the red map either.
If there's any burning questions you have, now is the time. So as Kim mentioned at the beginning, we will be making this recording available. It takes us a few days to process and convert the files and get them up to our website, but hopefully by early next week, we'll have those links to share with you. We invite you to share those with your team. Any feedback you have, please let us know. And at any time, if you have any questions, please reach out to me at any time to get connected with our team to visit with them. Again, my email is lwalker@stratacominc.com.
Well, Laura, I have a final question.
So,
I want to know if everyone thought that this was useful.
Good question. For those of you remaining, if you want to click there's a raise your hand function if you want to click that, or feel free to put into the chat or questions panel if you thought it was helpful. We're seeing lots of folks who thought it was helpful. Wonderful. So Great. At this time, there's no other questions. We'll close out the webinar. You'll get the recording in the next week. At any time, if you have any issues installing the map or have questions or want to customize it, reach out to us. We'd love to work with you to get this working in your environment. Thanks, everyone. We hope to see you on our next webinar in December.
Thank you.